What happened in the Strait of Hormuz represents one of the most consequential and carefully calculated naval confrontations in modern military history. Iran made a decision that it almost certainly knew would trigger an overwhelming American response. It attacked 3 commercial vessels transiting a U.S.-protected corridor through the strait's narrowest passage. Vessels that were operating in full accordance with international maritime law under the direct protection of the United States Navy. That decision set in motion a chain of military events that shattered the fragile ceasefire between Washington and Tehran and demonstrated, in brutally precise terms, exactly what American naval power looks like when it is fully unleashed in a confined maritime theater. To understand the gravity of this moment, the strategic architecture of the Strait of Hormuz must first be understood in its full dimensions. The strait is, at its narrowest point, approximately 33 kilometers wide. Through this choke point, before the conflict erupted, roughly 1/5 of all globally traded oil and liquefied natural gas passed on a given day. Iran recognized long before any military exchange began that controlling this waterway was not merely a tactical advantage, but an existential economic lever. Tehran established what it called the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, a new governmental agency explicitly designed to approve transit permits and collect tolls from vessels passing through the strait. Maritime legal experts were unequivocal in their assessment. This authority violated the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea that mandates peaceful passage rights through international waterways. Iran was not merely bending the rules of international navigation. It was attempting to unilaterally rewrite them. The United States responded to this manufactured authority with a counter-architecture of its own. CENTCOM deployed over 10,000 personnel, more than a dozen warships, dozens of aircraft to enforce a comprehensive naval blockade encompassing the entirety of Iran's coastline. By late May 2026, U.S. forces had turned away 94 vessels attempting to breach the blockade, an operational tempo that illustrated the sheer scale of the enforcement effort. At peak deployment, roughly 27 American warships were operating in the region simultaneously, representing approximately 41% of all U.S. Navy vessels actively deployed at sea worldwide. This was not a show of force. This was the entire weight of American maritime power, concentrated into one of the world's smallest and most dangerous bodies of navigable water. Iran's military doctrine in the Gulf is built around asymmetric harassment rather than conventional fleet engagement. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates through fast attack craft swarm tactics, mobile coastal anti-ship missile batteries positioned along Iran's rugged southern coastline. These systems are optimized for rapid dispersal, designed specifically to complicate targeting solutions for conventionally superior naval forces operating in confined waters. Additionally, Iran maintains a significant mine warfare capability. Even the threat of limited mining activity in narrow choke points can paralyze commercial shipping flows and force time-consuming clearance operations that tie down naval assets for days or weeks. Unmanned aerial systems and surface platforms further enhance Iran's ability to conduct low-cost surveillance strikes, the IRGC, to project persistent threat without exposing its more valuable conventional assets to direct attrition. But Iran crossed a threshold that its own military planners presumably understood would be catastrophic, when Iranian forces launched 3 armed attack drones directly at civilian mariners transiting the U.S.-protected southern corridor near Oman's coast. The legal and military response framework activated immediately. The Joint Maritime Information Center elevated the threat level for Hormuz transit to severe, explicitly warning that deliberate hostile action by Iranian forces was likely under current conditions. This language is not bureaucratic caution. It is the formal declaration that the rules of engagement have fundamentally shifted and that lethal force is now authorized as a matter of standing policy rather than exceptional circumstance. Admiral Brad Cooper, commanding CENTCOM's naval forces, laid out the American response with clinical precision. U.S. forces destroyed 6 Iranian small attack boats that had moved to intercept vessels operating under American escort. Simultaneously, the Navy intercepted Iranian cruise missiles and armed drones launched from coastal positions in a coordinated attempt to saturate the protective envelope surrounding American-escorted convoys. What made this response particularly significant was not merely its immediacy, but its comprehensiveness. Cooper announced that in the same operational window, U.S. forces had also struck Iranian missile and drone storage facilities and coastal radar stations, removing not just the immediate threat, but the infrastructure sustaining it. Iran had not simply lost 6 patrol boats, it had lost the forward logistics network, enabling future attacks of the same type. The underwater dimension of this operation deserves particular analytical attention because it reveals the depth of American operational planning that preceded these engagements by weeks. Admiral Cooper confirmed that the Navy deployed underwater drone systems to sweep a navigable corridor through the strait, physically clearing the path that commercial vessels would subsequently transit. This is an extraordinarily sophisticated operational capability. The ability to deploy, coordinate, retrieve autonomous underwater systems while simultaneously conducting surface and aerial combat operations against a hostile force in a geographically restricted waterway reflects a level of multi-domain integration that most naval forces on Earth cannot replicate. Within days of this clearance operation, 2 U.S.-flagged merchant vessels completed full transits of the strait under naval escort, demonstrating that the corridor was not theoretical but operationally functional. The economics of this confrontation follow a pattern that has become structurally familiar in modern asymmetric conflict. Iran's fast attack craft cost a fraction of what a single American guided missile destroyer represents in procurement and operational cost. Iran's armed drones, many produced domestically using relatively simple manufacturing processes, can be fielded in significant numbers for what the United States spends on a single interceptor missile. And yet the American response was not to match Iran drone for drone or patrol boat for patrol boat. It was to systematically eliminate the storage facilities, launch infrastructure, coastal radar networks that made Iran's asymmetric campaign operationally viable. This distinction is critical. Destroying 6 small boats is a tactical success. Destroying the depots and radar stations that enable those boats to function transforms a tactical success into a strategic setback for Iran's entire maritime harassment doctrine. Tehran attempted to reassert leverage through the ceasefire framework even as its military operations continued. Trump publicly accused Iran of violating an existing truce agreement when Iranian forces attacked vessels in the strait after a formal cessation of major hostilities had been declared. CENTCOM's response was instantaneous and unapologetic. U.S. forces intercepted what were described as unprovoked Iranian attacks on 3 American naval vessels, and immediately struck the Iranian military facilities responsible for those attacks. This was not a measured proportional response calibrated to diplomatic sensitivities. This was the application of direct military force against the source of the threat, with Trump explicitly warning that future violations would be met with greater and more violent force than anything Tehran had yet experienced. The commercial shipping industry absorbed the full weight of this crisis in ways that extended far beyond the immediate combat zone. Saudi Arabia publicly condemned an Iranian strike on one of its own vessels, the Wedian. While it was transiting the strait, Qatar's foreign ministry issued a formal condemnation after an Iranian attack set fire to a liquefied natural gas tanker's engine room. The risk of catastrophic explosion aboard a vessel carrying one of the world's most volatile cargoes. The strait effectively fractured into 2 competing transit corridors. A southern route hugging Oman's coastline, protected by American naval forces, and a northern route through Iranian-controlled waters that Tehran insisted all vessels must use. Ships that refused the Iranian route and attempted the U.S.-protected southern passage faced direct Iranian attack. Ships that complied with Iranian routing demands faced potential sanctions exposure and legal jeopardy under international maritime law. There was no safe path through the strait that did not carry significant risk. By the time the cumulative cost of the conflict was formally estimated at $113.3 billion to American taxpayers as of mid-June 2026, the nature of what had actually been purchased with that expenditure was becoming clearer. The United States had not simply defended commercial shipping. It had systematically degraded Iran's forward naval infrastructure, broken the operational coherence of the IRGC's harassment campaign, established a functioning transit corridor where none had existed for weeks, demonstrated that Iranian drone and missile attacks on American naval vessels would produce immediate and proportionally devastating counterstrikes, Whether this military calculus translates into durable Iranian compliance with international maritime law or merely a temporary operational pause while Tehran reconstitutes its coastal strike capability, remains the central unresolved question hanging over every vessel that now attempts the transit through those extraordinarily dangerous and